All right, let's get into it. Today, we're not just looking at a stock chart, we're treating it like a crime scene. Our subject? Opendoor, ticker OPEN. And we are going to play detective, follow the technical clues, and see if we can crack the case of where this stock is headed next.
You know, every single price swing, every trade, it's all part of a larger story. But let's be honest, reading that story isn't always easy. It's written in a language of numbers and patterns. So the real question is, how do you learn to read it?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Think of this analyst report as our case file. We're going to go inside, sift through all the evidence, and see if we can piece together the clues about this stock's future. Okay, let's dive right in. The case of Opendoor Technologies. First things first, like any good investigation, we need to assess the scene, get a baseline, and figure out what we're dealing with. So our first piece of evidence is the overall technical score. It's a 54.99. Think of it like a score out of 100. And what's 55? It's right down the middle. It's not screaming buy, and it's definitely not screaming sell. This tells us right off the bat that this isn't an open and shut case. There's a real puzzle here.
And yeah, right away, the plot thickens. The very first indicators we look at are kind of contradicting each other. The ADX, which is basically a speedometer for the trend's strength, is super low, at 15.96. That means there's no real power or momentum either way. But at the same time, the Arun indicator, which helps spot who's in charge, is negative. It's hinting that the sellers have a bit of an edge. So, what does that all mean? It means the stock is mostly just shuffling sideways, but with this little, nagging downward pull.
To really get to the bottom of this, we need to do what every good detective does: follow the money. This next bit is all about volume, which is our way of seeing who's buying, who's selling, and how serious they are about it. So what is volume, really? It's just the number of shares being traded. If you see a big price move with a ton of volume, that move has some oomph behind it. It's got credibility. But if a price moves on low volume, well, it might just be noise. It's really the key to peeking inside the market's mind. And oh boy, this is where we find our first major plot twist. The volume clues are telling two completely different stories. Look at this. One indicator, the on-balance volume, is high. This suggests that the whales, the big institutional investors, have been quietly buying up shares for the long haul. But another indicator, a short-term one, is pointing to distribution. That means the smaller fish, the day traders, are selling and taking their quick profits.
So we've got a classic tug of war on our hands. The big, patient money is betting on the company's future. The fast, impatient money is just reacting to the daily wiggles and cashing out. This conflict, this is a central clue in our whole investigation.
Okay, let's move on to our next set of clues. Now we're going to look at momentum, which is really about the speed and the force behind the price moves. Is the stock accelerating, or is it running out of gas?
And would you look at that, we see that same exact conflict playing out all over again. In the very short term, things look pretty weak. The price has slipped below all its recent averages. But when you zoom out and look at the big picture, it's a story of strength. The price is way above its 200-day average, which is a classic sign of a healthy, long-term uptrend.
Now, when we dig into the nitty-gritty of the momentum indicators, the evidence for that short-term weakness, it really starts to pile up. I mean, look at the CCI here. It's flashing a strong sell signal. Others, like MACD and Williams R, they're right there with it. The verdict from the momentum crew is crystal clear. In the short term, the bears are in charge.
So let's take a breath and review the evidence. We have a neutral overall score, conflicting signals from the money trail, and this clear short-term weakness fighting against a long-term uptrend. Now, let's use all of this to map out the most likely scenarios for what happens next.
Every map needs its landmarks. And for traders, those landmarks are support and resistance levels. Think of support down there at 567 as a potential floor, and think of resistance up at 702 as a potential ceiling. That pivot point in the middle, 613, that's the main battleground. These numbers are going to define the next chapter of this story.
So based on those levels, the report outlines 4 potential futures. First up, the bullish case. The stock breaks through that 7.02 ceiling with conviction. Then there's the bearish case. The price slumps back down to test that 6.13 pivot point. The third, and maybe the most likely given all the conflict, is the sideways case. It just chops around in a tight range. And finally, the really exciting one, the breakout scenario. A huge burst of volume sends the price blasting past that ceiling with its sights set on $8.
All right, we've reviewed all the evidence, we've examined the clues, and we've mapped out the possibilities. Now it's time to bring it all home and deliver the final verdict from our case file.
So here it is, the final report. The primary long-term uptrend, it's still alive and kicking. But, and this is a big but, it's being hit with some serious short-term headwinds. The defining feature of this whole case is that conflict. So the most likely outcome, for now, is a period of consolidation, that sideways shuffle we talked about, as the bulls and bears just duke it out in that key range between 5.67 and 7.02.
And honestly, that's the real lesson here. The point of all this detective work wasn't to find a simple buy or sell button. It was to get a deep understanding of what's happening. And what's happening is a state of short-term uncertainty, all playing out inside of a bigger, healthier long-term trend. It's a complicated picture, right?
So now I'm going to turn it over to you. You're the detective now. You've seen all the same evidence I have. The trend, the volume, the momentum. What's the one single clue that really jumps out at you? Is it that tug of war between the big money and the fast money? Or maybe the battle between the short-term and the long-term charts? Thinking about that, well, that's how you start reading the story for yourself.